Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video recording. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Mrs. Iwanu. The children call me Mrs. I, and I currently teach in Year 1, but I also take up subject leadership for PSHE and RSE. This is just a little video just to run through a few things with you. The policy is changing, and so is the curriculum going forward. So what we're going to be doing is introducing relationship, sex, and health education into the PSHE curriculum. This is done right the way across the country. It's done in every single school, and this is just to give you a little bit more information about it. What we would like to do is to inform you of the school's legal obligation on relationships and sex education from 2020 going into 2021. What you can do in your right as a parent or a carer of the children that are in your care, and how and what and when and why we're going to cover the things that we are going to cover in RSE. Why is RSE so important? RSE is relationships and sex education. Our children have been exposed to so much through the internet, television, social media, friends, family, even from school. I think as we've gone into lockdown and as we have been coming out of lockdown, I think the access our children have to the internet and social media and things that they see out there has just become increasingly larger, and it's just more than it ever was before. So that is why it is so important. The children don't always get the necessary facts that are true. They all sometimes go on hearsay or what they've heard or seen, and are often misinformed. And it's our responsibility to make sure that our children are well informed with the correct facts to make the correct choices that are right for them. So you can see it's on everything. It's in adverts, it's on Facebook, it's all over the place. So you actually can't get away from it. A lot of the children are on Snapchat, they're on Instagram. So it is everywhere. Just to let you know, we are educating children and young people to live in the real world with all of its contradictions. In the media, the children see so much, but it's not necessarily reflective on how life really and truly is. And it's our responsibility to just show that to them, to educate them on, for example, what relationships are, looking at different types of relationships compared to what they see in social media and hear from their friends. When it comes to sex ed, children's heads are probably not empty. I'm speaking as a mum of 2 children, one that has started secondary school and one that is in Year 5. They do hear things after talking to my children. They hear things on the playground. They hear things from their friends. They see things on social media. They see things on TV. And often what they're hearing are half-truths and myths and things that are not the correct information or factual. And it's just our responsibility as the adults that care for those children to give them that correct information so they're not getting myths or half-truths. We mustn't let our adult knowledge, and of relationships and sex pervert seeing things from a child's perspective. When I first started on this journey of PSHE leadership, it was something that I must be honest with, I didn't feel 100% comfortable with. But the more that I've gone into it, the more that I've looked at it, the more that I've spoken to my own children about it, taking out what my perception of it is and just going down to complete grassroots level where you're taking all our own preconceived ideas of things and just giving the children the factual knowledge that they need is so important. And even as a parent and as a teacher, that for me is something that, I've just found helps incredibly so much, because what it takes. I had to take my preconceived ideas of how I thought things should be, what I wanted my children to know, and I had to put it into perspective and go, okay, if I'm not going to share the correct information with them and the correct knowledge with them, where are they going to pick up that knowledge from, and is it going to be factual? So our focus in PSHE and RSE is on building healthy attitudes and positive relationships, and not just fighting off perceived threats. I think as our children have grown up and as culture and things around the world have changed, Things are different. Children come from different backgrounds. Their family dynamics are incredibly different. We can't just go back to the normal traditional sense of what a family and relationship looks like. And through the RSE and the PSHE curriculum, it allows us to discover and talk about those things with the children, to normalize it for them, so that everybody feels included, so that everybody feels that, at their family unit, the relationships that they have with the people that they have are normal, and they're okay, and they are incredibly beneficial to them. If RSE is so important, which approach is best? And this is something I've thought of from a parental point of view with my own children. Is it better to just give them all the knowledge at one go, or is it better to actually, as we say, drip feed it almost? So looking back and reflecting, I think we've gone with the PSHE Association curriculum plan, which is a spiral curriculum, which means is that, we drip feed it. So it starts in early years, and they revisit concepts as they go all the way up to year 6. So the concepts that they are covering start at the very basis, and they revisit it the entire time that they're in their primary school, and that knowledge is built on. So they are getting layers of this knowledge. It's revisited, so it becomes ingrained in them. It gives them opportunities as they're developing and as they're growing. It gives them opportunities to ask different questions. That a question a child might have asked about home dynamics and relationships at home in year 1 is completely different to how they perceive and see things in year 6. So the approach that we're taking is that we're doing a spiral curriculum, so we're basically drip feeding it in. Also, we're able to help children at different levels in their development, and I think it also makes it less, not that it's scary, but less intimidating, less awkward. A terminology that my children use at home when we talk about it is they'll go, "Oh, this is so cringy." But the more we talk about it, the more open we are, the more I drip feed and the more I introduce at the right times for them, the easier they are able to process it. And that's exactly the same thing with our children. It starts from when they're very little, and introducing concepts and language and discussions that are appropriate to their age level. So with regard to the Department of Education, it is policy, and it is stated that relationship and sex education and health education will be covered in all of the schools. So it's not something as a school that we've decided leaves in, okay, this is what we're going to do. Every school in the country is doing this. So it is something that will be carried forward regardless of which school you go to. Why should children know about relationships, and why? In terms of relationships, it's part of their everyday culture. It's part of their everyday lives. They have a relationship with you, their caregivers at home, their siblings. They have relationships with the children and their peers in their classes. They have relationships with people like us as an educator, the LSAs, and people at school. So it is something that is so pivotal to who your children are and how they are growing up and how they are relating to certain people. So we'll look at, in relationships education, what a positive, healthy, and caring and safer relationship looks like and feels like. A lot of the time, the children will have a preconceived idea of what they think a healthier relationship looks like. It's through that discussion of how do we treat each other, of how do you show that you care about somebody, how do we relate to somebody else, how does a relationship, friendship with somebody else, how does a good one feel like, how does a bad one feel like, and what do we do if we're in a situation where we don't feel cared for, where we don't feel safe, and equipping our children with those skills. A big one is how to speak up and how to get help. As I was saying before, if it doesn't feel healthy and it doesn't feel positive and it doesn't feel safe. If you think of ourselves as adults, sometimes it is hard to process and hard to work out what to do when you are in a friendship or in a situation where you don't feel healthy, positive, and safe. And sometimes as adults, we're not sure what to do. Can you imagine what our children feel like in those situations? So in relationship education, we explore those ideas. We teach the children who they can talk to, what to do, and we just give them opportunity to discuss things and discuss how they're feeling about certain things and who they can go and talk to if they feel that they are in a relationship that does not make them feel healthy, positive, and safe. And also an important one is how to make and maintain positive relationships. For our children, it's a skill that we need to teach them, and we teach them how we interact with them on a daily basis. It comes to the social dynamics of how do I be a good friend to somebody? How do I make friends? How do I keep those positive friendships? And those are such important skills that our children need to learn, and that is what will be a pivotal point of what we will be teaching them. It also, we've just put at the bottom, it's not just the relationships with the people that they see on a day-to-day basis in a physical sense of the word, but also online relationships. With children's exposure to social media, with Snapchat, with WhatsApp, with class WhatsApp groups and things like that, children are exposed to so many things that as parents we can't always control. We can try and monitor, but it's also to teach our children what to expect from online friendships and relationships as well as offline. And if they're in a situation where they don't feel healthy, positive, and safe, who they can talk to and the process that they can go through. What does the government in England say about the aim of relationship education? It says, today's children and young people are growing up in an increasingly complex world and living their lives seamlessly online and offline. Children and the young people need to know how to be safe and healthy and how to manage their academic, personal, and social lives in a positive way. So if I look at that, if my child was being taught that at school, and I know they are being taught that at school, it makes me feel safe as a parent and as a caregiver, knowing that, you know what, my children are being taught those skills, because our world is complex, it is constantly changing, and they need an environment and a place where they can explore those. And this is what the curriculum does for them. What do we have to teach? In primary school, it's relationship education is compulsory, health education is compulsory, but sex education is at the school's discretion. We have got an element of sex education in our policy, but it does not run right through the entire school. It is limited to years 5 and 6 mainly. And it is done, I'll go through it in a little bit more detail, but it's not graphic at all. It's very factually based. I've been through it with my own children, so I'm very aware and sensitive to how the parents might feel. What are the expectations for primary relationship education? Families and the people who care for me. We've got caring friendships, respectful relationships. How do I show respect to somebody? And how can I expect somebody to treat me with respect? Online relationships and being safe. How to keep myself safe is paramount to all of this. We've got LGBT and equality. What does the RSE guidance say? It says schools are required to comply with relevant requirements of the Equality Act. Further guidance is available for schools. So basically what that is saying is that it's our responsibility to teach children that everybody is different. You might get children that might be lesbian, they might be gay, they might be transgender, but your core of who you are as a person is not defined by your sexual identity. It's defined by who you are as a person. And to teach our children respect for other people, to teach them empathy and understanding rather than judgment, and to realize that, you know what, as people, whatever their choices are, they are special and they are important and they have a voice and they will be treated like everybody else, with kindness, with compassion, because that is what we want in our children. Schools should be allowed to issue such as everyday sexism, homophobia, gender stereotypes. So it's also looking at those type of things. For example, we've had a discussion recently where because a girl's got short hair, is she a boy? Or if a boy's got long hair, is he a girl? And just talking about how your identity is not determined by your external looks or the choices that you make. So that for the children is something, is an issue that we discuss where, and it gets children thinking about things, that their preconceived ideas of how things aren't necessarily always how they should be. And also it gets them to thinking, okay, this is what I thought before. After talking about it, my thinking has changed and it's made me a little bit more tolerant. It's made me a bit more aware. And I'm just going to treat people a little bit differently in terms of kindness. I'm not going to treat them differently negatively because of certain choices that they've made. What are the expectations for primary health education? Mental well-being is a very big one at the moment because our children have been under extremely difficult circumstances where we've been in places that we've never been before. We've been in lockdown, we've been back to school. We've been in lockdown, we've come back to school. Our children have faced family members who have been sick. Some of our children have faced family members that have passed away. And helping our children deal with the emotional and mental well-being side of things is very important to us as a school. Looking at internet safety and harms, physical health and fitness, healthy eating, drugs, alcohol and tobacco, health and prevention, basic first aid, and changing adolescent body puberty. So basically going through, okay, as you're growing, your body changes, and these are basically what the changes are. We're just finding that puberty is happening earlier and earlier with a lot of children. It's not necessarily something we can leave to the late years, but rather give our children the skills and the foundation and the knowledge so that when that process does start to happen for them, it's not a surprise. They are very aware that it is normal, so it doesn't make them feel that they're different from anybody else. So that is basically where the changing adolescent body and puberty is focused around, to keep them aware and to give them the correct facts of what is happening to them themselves. Sex education is discretionary at primary school. The department recommends that all primary schools should have a sex education program tailored to the age and physical and emotional maturity of the pupils, drawing of the knowledge from the human life cycle, which is in the national science curriculum, how a baby is conceived and how it is born. I know that there might be some of you that might go, oh, I don't know if I want my children to be part of that discussion. I have recently been through that with my own children at home, and I had to sit down and I had to go, what is best for my child? It makes me feel uncomfortable having the discussions or going through it, but it is my responsibility as an adult and as a parent and as a caregiver to make sure that my children receive the correct information and factual information from the correct source who will give them the correct information, not hearing mistruths or talk on the playground or picking things up on the internet. I would rather that it comes from a source where it has been very carefully thought out, it is handled in a very sensitive matter, and it's handled and it's presented on a very factual basis. So we take all the emotion and everything out of it and we present the children with the facts just to keep them informed. Sex education. Sex education is not really about sex, okay? The government's emphasis is on relationship and health education. Okay, so that is where the sex education is, in keeping the children informed and giving them the facts as to what is happening. What happens? How does a pregnancy occur? But again, the emotional, the movie side, I want to say the movie side of things is completely removed, and the children are just given that knowledge, just given that fact, just so that they know how their bodies work and what happens. The emphasis is on those things. Sex education and how a baby is formed happens as a result of a relationship, a positive relationship. Okay, sex education in primary school only includes puberty. Again, as I've said before, that is what the changes that they are experiencing in themselves. As their bodies start to change, their emotions change, their mood swings change. So it is important for us to discuss those things with the children so that they don't feel isolated. They don't feel like they are the only person that is going through that. And what I'm feeling and the changes that are happening are completely normal. It goes into human reproduction, and not all of it is covered in all year groups. As I've said before, we give the children the information that is relevant to where they are emotionally and where they are as a year group and what is relevant to them at the time, and it is covered in a very sensitive matter and in a matter of way. In the sex education, if I look at, we've recently been doing the underpants rule, the children are taught the correct terminology. It's not, it was quite sweet to hear all the names that they have for their private parts, and we then go, okay, but it's a penis and it's a vagina. And that is so important to teach them a correct terminology, because when it comes to, say, there's a safeguarding issue or something has happened and the children want to talk about it or they need to talk to someone about it, it's very difficult to sometimes understand what the children are saying if everybody's using different terminology. So if we call it a penis and we call it a vagina, everybody knows what we're talking about. And the more we talk about and use the correct terminology, the easier and the less awkward it feels using those terms. But everybody is on the same page because everybody is they're all using the same words. Okay, so what's going to happen is from September, we've been slowly changing things at Leavesden Green, but we are in the process of revamping the curriculum and having a look at how we're going to be moving forward as a school. Legally, all schools must teach the science curriculum, and that is a given. DFE guidance states very clearly what needs to be taught, and in the science curriculum, that is compulsory. Okay. It's a recommendation that all schools have a sex education program, but how the school delivers this is left up to them. What will my child be taught? So at Leavesden Green, we're going with the PSHE Association curriculum, and we're using the thematic model. So it's a well-recognized curriculum. It's got a good foundation. It's got good teaching skills. It's something that is recognized throughout the UK. So it is a program and it is a model that is well used. So about the program builder, it is a thematic model, so it takes on different themes. So it covers 3 core parts. It covers health and well-being, relationships, and living in the wider world. So those are the 3 main strands, and then everything else falls under those. So over the school year, the 3 topics are covered per half term. It's approached differently in the different year groups. But again, as I was talking before, it's a spiral program. So you will start with your early years, year 1, and they will revisit things in mental health and well-being, relationships. And then they'll go into reception, and it will cover some more. Then they go into year 1, and the concepts are built upon year upon year upon year. And the children can always reflect on what they've learned previously and apply to what they've done now. So doing it in a spiral model means that the children are receiving the correct information and they're being taught the correct skills at the correct time for where they are developmentally. The program is flexible, so if something does come up or we see a need or an issue has arisen in the classroom, we are able to address it. So that's also why we enjoy this. It also makes it easier for planning. I'll go to the next one. As you can see, this is what I was talking about with the spiral curriculum. You can see in year 1, it's, for example, in relationships in the autumn term, it will cover families and friendships, and it will go roles of different people when the family is being cared for. And then in year 2, it will be making friends, feeling lonely and getting help. In year 3, it will go what makes a family feature of family life. So you can see through every single strand exactly what is being taught, and you can see the progression of skills, you can see the progression of what the children have been taught and how it goes layer upon layer upon layer as they work their way through the years. This overview will be available on the school website for you to have a look at. And if you've got any questions, please just feel free to pop me an email and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. What do parents have the right to excuse their children? Can you excuse your child from sex education? Parents may choose to remove their children from sex education within the RSE policy section of it, but they cannot remove their children from what is taught in science. Okay, so that is something that is different. The opportunity for teaching relationships education might arise from other areas of the curriculum, and then that will be taught across cross-curricular subjects, because it's not, PSHE is not entirely something that happens on its own. It does filter into everything that we do in our school, how we talk to the children, the relationships that we build with them, and how we just generally are as a school. From the foundation stage, children will begin to learn about their bodies and understanding of relationships. Topics and themes will be repeated from year to year in greater depth. That's what I was talking about, the spiral curriculum. And it is constantly reviewed. It's things that it is something that we look at because things change so quickly. We adapt things as we need to. In science, the following will be taught, and your child may not be removed from these lessons. In year 5 and 6 during the summer term, they will cover reproduction in humans. As an example, they will do mammals, including the structure, the function of the male and female reproductive system, the menstrual cycle without the detail of all the hormones, gamete fertilization, gestation, birth, to include the effect of maternal lifestyles on the fetus going through to the placenta. They'll look at identifying the links between love, committed relationships, and conception. They'll go look at what is sexual intercourse and how it can be part of an intimate relationship between consenting adults, and how pregnancy occurs. So when the sperm meets the egg, the fertilized egg settles into the lining of the womb. Again, this is done in a very sensitive manner. The images and the pictures that are used are drawn, so they are not graphic by any means. And again, it comes down to giving the children the facts. And from a science point of view, remember, we're taking the emotional side out of it. We're taking all of that out and we're just giving them the information that they need. In RSE, the following will be taught, and this is what your child may be removed from. In year 4, it's identifying external genitalia and reproductive organs, calling a penis, calling a vagina, using terminology like that. Physical and emotional changes during puberty, key facts about the menstrual cycle and menstrual well-being, erections and wet dreams. I must be honest, this was one that I wasn't comfortable with when I first read it and started going through it. But I have recently had that discussion with my son at home. And again, we brought it down to pure facts. We brought it down to, this is what happens. It's absolutely normal. And you know what? He did use his word, this is cringy, Mom. But the more we spoke about it, the more comfortable he got with it. And once we had spoken about it a few more times, now we can openly talk about it with him. And he doesn't want the earth to swallow him up and he doesn't want to disappear. He's more open. But it's because we've given him the complete facts. We haven't put all the other bits on it that we see in the media. Where to get information, help, and advice about puberty. In year 5, the female genital mutilation, which is against British law. So basically, we go through that with them. Again, we don't give them all the detail of how that happens or what happens during it. We inform them that this is what happens. It is illegal. And if they think that has happened to somebody or it's happened to themselves, this is what they can do. In year 6, how pregnancy occurs. So when the sperm meets the egg and fertilizes the egg and settles in the lining of the womb, and pregnancy can be prevented through contraception. I know it's a lot to take in as a parent, and automatically you go, oh, but when we take all the emotion out of it, it comes down to keeping our children informed, keeping them safe by being informed, so that there aren't the mysteries, there aren't the myths out there, that they have got all the knowledge and the skills that they need to make decisions and make choices. And please, I'd just like to emphasize that this is done in a very sensitive way. It is not emotionalized at all. And being parents ourselves and visualizing our own children sitting in those lessons, that is always the foremost thought in our minds when we are talking about these things. This is some of the examples of the material that we would use. We would, in terms of with the younger children, we use a lot of visuals. So they are visuals that are appealing to them. They are visuals that they will understand when we're looking at the life cycle of butterfly, life cycles from puppies to dogs. So that is where it will start. The key stage 2 resources, outside changes for a girl. Again, as I was saying before, the pictures are tastefully done. They don't have huge amounts of detail in them because we just want the message to get across without making it embarrassing for them or making them feel awkward. The same with the outside changes for the boys. It's tastefully done. It's not graphic by any means. So I think looking at this and going through the pictures with my own children, they did feel comfortable looking at images and resources like this. Resources about the outside changes for girls, just explaining what happens. So as you can see, the visuals that we are using with the children have the necessary information in them. All the frills and all the other things are taken out, and the visuals and the resource we use are just purely what they need to know. This is one of the examples of the inside body, the changes for the boys. Again, they are drawings. Again, they are diagrams. And again, it is the very basics of drawings just to show them the functions of how things work. And the same goes again for the girls. So the resources are very sensitively done. This is one of a picture of the baby inside, so the children have an idea of how it all works, how it all fits together. And again, the visuals are basic drawings, so there's none of the gruesomeness or anything that would make them feel uncomfortable. An example of key stage 2 resources for the images of self-esteem. So you've got on the one side showing what the media would show, and on the other side what it really looks like in real life. And I think that is so paramount to where our children are at the moment with Snapchat and everything that's happening and all the filters on their phones. They're constantly trying to change the way they look. And that is something that I think they need to be aware of, that how they naturally look is the best look for them. They're to feel confident in their own skin and not feeling like they need to change themselves. And also that in the media, what they're seeing in the media is not necessarily reality. Those pictures in the media have been touched up, they've been changed. And if you take a picture of someone in the media and you take them a photo of them when they wake up first thing in the morning, the two will be completely different. And the new Ofsted framework that's coming into place, it is something that is looked at when they come in to do their Ofsted. They're looking for quality of education, behavior, personal development, and leadership and management. But a big one is personal development of the children. And running through all of that is the main reason for doing all of this is to safeguard our children. The only way to keep our children safe is to make sure that they are well informed, that they have the correct information, they know where to go to if they need any help, and they know the process to go through, and they feel comfortable talking about it. They feel comfortable talking about their bodies. They feel comfortable about talking about the relationships. They feel comfortable talking about their family and their home life. And that is the only way, that is the best way to safeguard our children, is by giving them that confidence and the ability to express themselves and knowing where to go. On our school's website, you will find the following: our curriculum map, which you have seen in some of the previous slides, and what will be taught through the year groups, and the PSH policy will be there for you to have a look through. I hope that you have enjoyed. I'm just going to excuse myself from the slide so I can come back. There we go. I hope that you have found this video informative. If you have any questions that I can answer for you, please could I ask you just to pop me an email and let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can if you have any further questions. I hope you found this informative and have a wonderful day.